Hello everyone. I'm going to start off with a little movie just to put you all in the mood, so we'll get this going.
World-renowned for its pristine beaches and famous breaks, and now a new multi-million-dollar adventure sport is overtaking surfing. But as Mia Brankov reports, the booming industry is already under threat.
It's fast, adrenaline-fueled, and in demand.
We really had no idea that the level of interest from outside of Margaret River. We started to hear people talk about, let's go down to Margaret River for the weekend to go ride. You know, in the same way they would say, let's go surf.
Mountain biking in Margaret River has exploded into a multi-million-dollar tourism industry.
It's remarkable to see the number of people that are coming down to ride the trails these days.
6 years ago, it was only locals who rode these tracks, which were considered illegal. The Department of Parks and Wildlife tried to ban them, but riders persevered.
We really need to talk about it and grow this as a community asset.
I mean, surfing's a major attraction, wine is a major attraction, but you're seeing something just starting to go through the roof.
One of the most popular tracks in the region is in the Pine Plantation, about 12 kilometres that attracts riders of all abilities, tourists and families. But the Forest Products Commission has plans to log it by the end of this year. The state government has been planning to log this pine plantation for over 2 years. Despite fierce protests, locals say it's now inevitable all of this will be gone one day soon. And now riders are flocking here from all over the world to ride it before it's too late.
It's a shame that they're disappearing before we've got the new tracks established. So, I mean, I'd love to see this sort of maybe another year out of this before they log it.
Riders are now working with Deepore to build new tracks and ensure they can supply future demand.
The type of soil that we ride on and also the vegetation that we ride through is really unique. It's a very special place.
3 months ago, local rider Paul Isles opened the Hairy Marin Cafe, purpose-built for the influx of riders. He says the numbers are getting bigger and it's serious business.
You get addicted really to being out in the bush. There's a certain energy, I suppose it's the same as what the surfers feel out in the waves.
The state government hasn't set a date for the pine's harvest. There are plans in place for future tracks, but they're not ready for public viewing yet.
But that's our challenge, is trying to, have something developed for this influx of people that are coming in to ride the trails these days.
Mia Brankov, 9 News.
Well, that was interesting, wasn't it? That's just a little clip that showed last night actually on Channel 9 in Western Australia. It was on at about 7 o'clock, and it just sets the scene for this talk quite well. The level of talks have been up here so far today. This is probably going to be down about here. I'm just a little local kid from a town called Margaret River, which I'm sure a few of you have heard about. I run a company called Common Ground Trails. We do trail planning, trail design and mountain bike trail construction. You can get me on #FatWaterBuffalo, apparently, as of today. I'm passionate about keeping people connected with landscapes, connecting people with landscapes through trail experiences. I think it's a really important thing that we get out and experience the landscape these days. We're all connected. I'm connected. I'm using this purely to uplight my face, not for notes. But yeah, we're all connected, and it's important that we get out and remember why we're on Earth, and that's to have good experiences. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. I come from a little town called Margaret River, as I said. It's a beautiful little spot. I'm sure people know about it. Give us a hand up if you've heard of Margaret River before. Well, that's good to hear. The social team are doing well. We're only about 7,000 people down there, so it's a pretty small town. In fact, where I come from in MARGS, we still don't have internet, so it's good to be disconnected when we need to be. Hands up for who's actually been to Margaret River. Geez, that's a lot. That's pretty impressive. That's great. So, a bit about me, just quickly. Yes, I'm a big person. No one needs to say that to me again tonight. Seems to be the common greeting for me is, "Hi, you're big." My mates know me as the mountain bike guy, and I'm happy for you guys to refer to me as the big mountain bike guy, but yeah, we'll just leave it at that. I guess my past, as the introducer said, has been in a pretty diverse range of I guess creative industries. I've dabbled in a number of things, starting in web development actually in the early to mid 90s. which was pretty early on for that kind of thing. Then moved into graphic design and fashion design, and lived in China for a while doing fashion design, which was quite an exciting environment to be in the early 2000s. And then moved into film and video, and more recently architecture, and have been doing architecture for about 8 years. Most recently I've moved into trails, and that's what I'm here to talk about today is mountain bike trails and how they've had a really big impact on Margaret River, and how that's grown from just a really little Facebook group to now actually, as the really beat up video thing that Channel 9 did, into an industry which is actually generating millions of dollars worth of income to the region. I guess my interest is where that intersection of niche products, advocacy, design, creativity, architecture, tourism, all those things combine. And it's a fairly niche little thing to be involved in, but it's good fun. I guess what being involved in all those different industries and dabbling in all that different creativity has taught me is that there's always someone out there that's interested in your product. It's just a matter of reaching them through some kind of mechanism. Today, as we know, that used to be through word of mouth. Today that's obviously through social media, and how that happens is really important, and there's a lot of people in this room that are far more experienced in that than me. And what I'd like to do today is bring you back to what the local, small, low-level thing reality is, of what people actually, how they apply these kind of things to make sure that, I guess, their passion is shining through. Like I said, I'm meant to be talking about social media today. I really don't know a lot about social media. This probably sums up my social media experience the best. If you have a look at the top right, that says follow us on Twitter with a Facebook logo. Down the bottom left, like us on Factbook. Does anyone know what Factbook is? With a Twitter logo. That's a little graphic design thing I did for the Margaret River Tourism Association. The proofreader's in this room somewhere, actually, and he should stand up. Yeah, thanks, Corey Gale. He's talking tomorrow. So Corey proofed that and approved it. It's all right, that only went out to 100,000 people. 100,000 copies of that map were printed. So that sums up my experience with social media. For some reason, this little drawing I did a couple of years ago excited a guy called Rodney from Destination Think to think that I was creative enough to do a presentation today. So I'm not sure why, but that to me looks like a bit of a mechanism of tourism and all the crap you have to go through and the things that happen in order to market something really simple. And that's what I'm going to talk about today, is that simple product and how basic users can just get out there and do it themselves, and you guys can just ride on the coattails of that and not have to worry about actually marketing product, which is accessible and exciting to use. So the title of my talk is meant to be Developing Niche Markets Through Building Experienced Advocates. I wrote that as a bit of a summary of what I'm going to talk about. It's way too smart for me to actually talk about that. I think the key part is turning people into vocal advocates for niche products can provide better marketing than any advertising, quickly turning a niche product into a mainstream market for a destination. That's really important, and there's a couple of key things there we should focus on. That's niche products and what they are and how you can use them, and marketing them into the mainstream market to create a destination. I guess social media is the medium, as I said before, for word of mouth, and that's how we've gone about promoting mountain biking in MARGS. I'm going to give you a cool little example of mountain biking in MARGS and how social media has created that whole industry, like I was saying before. Before we do that though, this is a guy called Sean Bloxage. He was in that little video that came up before. A few of you may know him. He's a good mate of mine from MARGS. I designed his house. That's his house up there on top of the rock on the right. He bought me a bike because I designed his house, which was nice of him as a bonus. And yeah, he's a general pretty good bloke. it's, it's interesting how mateships form, but we won't go into that. We've got a bit of a bromance that happens between us, and it's exciting to have a good mate that can have a good camaraderie with. But unfortunately, we're both plagued with a very similar syndrome, and that's called genetic disorder. It's a genetic disorder called overly handsome tall man syndrome. I guess he's a little bit thinner than me, which might work in his favour, but we're both walking niches in ourselves, in that there's not many people of our scale out there. And that's pretty important, and I'll give you a good example. This pair of pants that I'm wearing today, which you'll note I've actually had to roll up the cuffs on. I bought those last week for this presentation, so I looked smart, on the back of some social media which came up on my feed for clothes for tall guys. Now that's really interesting, because obviously I needed a pair of clothes for a tall guy. Sean also needs clothes for tall guys, and through word of mouth and through me being an advocate of buying this, he now owns a very similar pair of pants as of buying them yesterday. I think that's a good example of how social media doesn't have to be difficult. You can create an advocate very easily through targeting a niche product. That doesn't need to be some worldwide marketing campaign. It can just be a little link to a tall guy website, and that's what is really important. I want to kind of focus on that kind of thing. Adversely, I've also got a pair of pants which are much too short, and they aren't of the quality which I desire, and recently the zipper broke. Now, I don't think anyone wants to see me up here with my zipper down. If you do, come and see me after the presentation. But I guess what that points out is it's really important that anything we create has to be of the quality and the experience that people are chasing. And if you do create that quality and that experience for a niche market, it all ties back into very easy marketing, and you'll find that advocates actually promote this thing for you rather than you having to go out and promote it yourself. Oh, there's a photo of me and Sean with his wife. I think his wife's on her tippy toes actually, but anyway. So translating this all back to tourism, and the reason I'm here to talk about this kind of thing, I guess having advocates in today's world of noise and infinite marketing and messages and generic products is really, really essential. We can go out there and do the same kind of crap that everyone does, hashtag something or at something. I don't know how that works, to be honest. But what's really important is that we create advocates that do that for us. The presenter before me did a really good little talk on that, and I'm going to go into how we've done that in Margaret River in a little bit more detail. MARGS is an interesting place. It has a lot of different diversity. It's got amazing wineries, it's got amazing beaches, it's got amazing everything apparently. What it didn't have was mountain biking, and it doesn't really have that anymore, at the moment, and we really need to promote that on a base level so that people get interested in the activity. Over the last few years we have been doing that, and Margaret River's almost becoming more renowned for mountain biking than it is surfing, and you can see that in the little clip before, and it's quite interesting how that's actually evolved. Just to give you a bit of an idea of mountain biking and what it is, for those that don't know. Actually, we might just start off with, can I get anyone to stand up that is a mountain biker? I know it's a little social experiment. So we've got 1, 2, come on, stand up, it's not that hard. 3, 4, 5, okay. Now go into a half squat for me. Yeah, okay. Now, if you're really a mountain biker, you'll be able to hold that for the rest of the talk. Okay, can I get anyone to stand up? Anyone that has actually mountain biked before to stand up? Okay. So the people you saw before were the true advocates for the sport. The people you see standing up now are people that listen to the true advocates. Now, can I get anyone to stand up that's actually owned or ridden a bike before? Yeah, I think you should all stand up, but anyway. This is the potential market that you have for reach for mountain biking. So it's an interesting perspective to put on it. How many people are actually out there? You can sit down now, sorry, and those that are still squatting, well done. It's a really interesting little perspective on what the different mountain bike markets are. So I guess mountain biking, this is what my friends think I do, some guy doing crazy shit. This is what my mum thinks I do, you know, more crazy stuff. This is what ecologists think I do, you know, cutting down the trees, and it goes on and on and on. This is what you guys, as the marketing people, market mountain biking as. Something really, really inaccessible that everyone aspires to do. But the reality is it's not like that. It's a very simple, easy thing to do. Now, you can't see that graph because my graphic design skills aren't good enough. But an established mountain bike market should consist of 3 different components. Right at the top's an extreme component, and that's what that little jumpy thing was. They're the advocates, they're the people that, you know, people aspire to be. The enthusiasts, that quite big thing in the middle, is basically anyone that wants to mountain bike. That leisure market is the potential market, and if we have a look at this, well, you can't really see it, but the extreme market is a very small market, and it's really important that we don't focus on those people. We need to focus on promoting to the enthusiasts and the leisure market, because they're the people where the numbers are, and that's what we did in Margaret River, and that's what's resulted in a lot of people coming to the region. So mountain biking in MARGS, it's gone through exponential growth lately. It's, you know, it's a niche little market, but it's working really well. It started with these guys. 4 guys that went out in the bush 10 years ago and built a few trails illegally and have been loving it ever since. They rode it, they were happy, nothing had to go wrong. This guy here is fairly ugly, but he can wield a shovel, and that's what's important. So he was out there doing that, building trails. Like I said, they were all happy. Unfortunately, then Parks and Wildlife banged in some signs and said, no riding here. Now, that was the catalyst for a little group called the Margaret River Off-Road Cycling Association to form a Facebook group which led to a lot of big things. Now, that little Facebook group originally had 7 guys on it, and was used for a number of reasons, but it ended up, you know, now it's got, I think about 2,000 people on it, and it's used for a number of reasons, which is, you know, from coordinating people to go out and help work on trails to promoting the area and that kind of thing. So it's a little closed group, but it goes to show you that those kind of things can be really important. During the period of having all those trails out there, there's an event called the Cape to Cape. That was established. It had about 80 people when it started in the late 2000s, and has now grown and grew to about 900 people. Unfortunately, what happened is we were seeing all these riders ride through town and not come back in, and they weren't staying in the region, you know, for any reason other than coming through for that event. What we did was we went out and created an area called the Pines, and that was a catalyst of that Facebook group going out, building this little area of trails, and really, I guess, enjoying themselves, doing what we all love. And over a period of about 2 years, through a range of different individuals, we established about 12 k's of purpose-built single track. They were located about 1.5 k's from town. Now, the next year, the Cape to Cape, there's those guys that built it, pretty good-looking bunch of guys. The next year, those Cape to Cape riders came through, and they used what they called a special stage, which was the Pines that we'd created. Now, the period following that, growth was just absolutely exponential. We just saw people coming back, using the trails more and more and more, and that was because of that word of mouth and that social media advocacy of people coming in and experiencing something that was exceptionally fun and unique to the region and unique to the state, and they've just kept coming back and back and back, to the point where the Cape to Cape race now has a cap of 1,500 riders and sells out almost every year. We're getting over 70,000 users using, 70,000 trail passes a year, which is, you know, quite significant. And just to put that in perspective, that's all been done by 3 or 4 guys that have been dedicated to building trails for about $10,000. So we're talking not big money, but making a real change through promoting trails through social media and through word of mouth. I guess the reality is there's a bunch of idiots out there building trails, and it's a matter of, you know, harnessing people like us, harnessing people within your community and harnessing people that are advocates to go out and actually do these kind of things. The lessons we learnt through doing this is that it's really, really important that anything you do is authentic. It's no good marketing something that isn't authentic. The product we created was extremely authentic, and that's why people loved it. We're also, I guess, we need to get serious and start planning things properly because, unfortunately, shortly after that, it was announced that the pines were going to get logged. Now, stepping back a bit, what's happened over the, I guess, last few years is that those 4 or 5 guys that originally got in there in 2012, 2013 and promoted mountain biking have now all moved on to work within the mountain bike industry. So we're talking over a period of 1 or 2 years where 3 or 4 guys have created a completely new industry on a volunteer basis through social media and ended up creating some really awesome little products. So what we've got here is one of the guys started a little cafe called the Hairy Marin. That was very recently, and they're doing some really great social media now. One of the guys started a tour company, and he works full-time. One of them's a full-time mountain bike trail planner. That's me. And one of them's also a full-time trail builder. So you can't see all the stats there, unfortunately, but what that shows is some pretty good engagement. You can't see all the things there, but recently we announced that the pines were going to get logged. That got shared 100 times by our members, and it ended up getting a reach of close to 20,000, which for us is fairly significant. On your scale of things, it's right down the bottom, but it's it's important that we recognise that those advocates are out there pushing our product. So to get serious, we went out and did a bit of planning. And to get serious, we've gone out throughout the world and done some pretty cool research trips to work out where we're going with. A bit of that involved going over to British Columbia, and that's where Rods is from, and Lindsay, and that was great. Looked at how they're marketing things, how they're engaging with their consumers and the advocates that they're creating. It was also a bit of fun. And I think the important thing with mountain biking is that we recognise that the people that mountain bike aren't just there to mountain bike, they're there, as most tourists are, to spend money and do other experiences. So we went float planing, we went eating ice cream, that kind of thing. And just to give you, put some stuff into perspective, mountain biking in Whistler, I think probably the best one to show is that in 2011 generated 125,000 visits, which is very significant. We also went to Scotland, did some planning there, also had some food and that kind of thing. Really interesting there, the Seven Stains in Scotland attracts over 390,000 people a year. A lot of their social media is absolutely fantastic. I won't go into that because I'm running short on time. But yeah, I guess the important one there is that mountain biking for them is the 16th highest visited attraction in Scotland. Coda Brennan, similar stats, getting up to 100,000 people a year there now. And then New Zealand, where we'd all love to live. Similar good times over there. So the planning we're doing in Western Australia now to push mountain biking forward is on a regional, state and local level. We've just undertaken the Southwest Master Plan. That identifies a number of locations within the region which are of either national, regional or local significance. Margaret River's come up as one of those nationally significant locations. And I'm not sure why this isn't looking very good, but it isn't. We're positioning ourselves as a national destination, so we're looking to build 100 k's of trail and hope that will be marketed by our advocates, not by the tourism industry and those kind of people, even though they'd like to. I'll skip past that one. So the key with the mountain biking that we're trying to offer is that we're trying to promote different experiences, and this is, I guess, the crux of the discussion that I'm having with you guys today is that we're really trying to focus on providing unique experiences within 5 destinations in Western Australia, sorry, the southwest of Western Australia. The Margaret River experience will be that, I guess, that gourmet, go ride bikes, drink beer, eat food, drink wine experience, and we hope that people will, share that experience. Dunsborough will be based on that coastal experience. The Blackwood River Valley in Nannup will be based on that rolling hills experience, and the Southern Forest based on that tall trees experience, and the Geograph area based on that River Valley experience. Now that's all really important because we hope that people go out and share those different unique experiences and come back because of those experiences. So where are we now? I guess I showed you that little news clip last night. That's already gone up and reached about 20,000 views, I believe, as of this morning. So again, through word of mouth, through promoting a region, you know, just as advocates, we're getting really big, significant tourism. The Hairy Marin have got their little Facebook page. Obviously, the Mr. Orca page is still going really well. Yeah, we're getting a lot of, I guess, a lot of visitation because of it. So what have we learned? I guess the take-home things that you should consider today are you need to listen to your local community. You need to listen and find out what their niche products are and what your niche products are and what people out there can actually experience. You don't necessarily have to create a really big product to generate tourism into a region. Your product might already be there, people might already be doing it. It's just a matter of harnessing that and assisting them with promoting it. It's important that you don't market this kind of thing too early, and I'm sure you all know this, but it's really important that you don't go out and market this kind of stuff too early. Mountain biking, and like with most of the advocate-based things, such as these pants, quality is really important, and if you're marketing something before the quality is up there, yeah, it's not going to result in creating advocates for the region. Don't follow the rules. We're following the rules and it's taking us too long. And, you know, just get out there and do it. And try not to replicate everything. Try and be unique. So I guess in wrapping up, probably haven't really learned a lot about social media, but you do know that you can get good jeans for tall guys online.
Well, thanks, David, for sharing that. It sounds like you've started a very passionate conversation there, and that really took off. Yeah. So how's your experience been in working with the local DMOs on these biking trails?
It's been interesting. We've been trying to get them to, I guess, realise what mountain biking significance has, and there's actually a guy sitting in the room which had I remember him having a light bulb moment, and it was a couple of years ago, and we were talking about events and how important events are for promoting, you know, these different kinds of activities, and he had this really light bulb moment where he said, you can't, in mountain biking, you can't promote events or promote a destination for people to come back to unless there is the infrastructure behind it. So we've been working with them to try and create infrastructure, and that's, I guess, one of the things that we need in Margaret River is infrastructure rather than actually promotion at the moment. Yeah.
And if I understand your story correctly, it's actually a lot of DMOs that should be working a little bit more with guys like you.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I mean, I'm actually involved with the DMOs back where we are, and I think it's important that you know, get out there and actually engage with the community, work out what are the people in the community passionate about, and what are they willing to market, you know, for you, and how do they go out and do that? And just, I guess it's about giving them support to do that rather than actually creating, you know, product for them to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, because what would you say to DMOs that say they only promote what's there? They're not in the business of shaping a product.
Yeah, and that's the typical argument, isn't it? Yeah. Is that, you know, we're here to promote, we're not here to create. I guess, you know, DMOs don't necessarily have to invest time or money into something. They can just invest relationships. Yeah. They can go out and actually support individuals, whether it's through letters of support, you know, really basic stuff, really low-level stuff again, but it's, you know, it all helps these organisations you know, getting their foot in the door and apply for grants and all that kind of basic stuff.
Perfect. And now a practical question: where did you get the pants?
G-Star.
Two tall guys on the stage. Yeah. But he's taller. Any questions from the audience?
Hi, Dave. Awesome presentation. Love your enthusiasm, obviously. Probably my question is, so obviously this kind of was built on your passion for mountain biking and all that kind of thing. Have you kind of noticed, or do you know, or have you partnered perhaps with any of the other businesses around the place, you know, like cafes or restaurants or anything like that, to try and, I guess, you know, work collaboratively or cooperatively and that kind of thing? Like, has that worked, or is that something you envisage doing as part of your bigger plan?
Yeah, I guess those partnerships are really important, and, you know, I guess simple things like having handles to all promote and that kind of thing is really important. We're in a very early stage and not really doing that as well as we should, and that's, you know, why we need to come to these kind of things and learn from that. Yeah, there is groups in there that are working together to promote, but it's not happening as well as, you know, it should, and as well as obviously we all know that those kind of things can be done.
Great. Thank you so much, David, for sharing this. Thank you.
Cheers.
I want you to know